The GOP evidently doesn't know the meaning of the word no. I guess they learned that from Donald Trump. See, 6 months ago, Missouri voters told the anti-choice GOP to shove it when they approved an abortion rights amendment. Missouri, the Republicans there in charge of the state wanted to move in the direction that so many others have had and dial back reproductive freedoms and rights. And so the voters got out ahead of that and were like, no, we want access to these rights we've had our entire life back, get up all the way off of our back. The issue is that Republicans don't care what the voters say, and there is no ballot measure that can succeed enough that they're gonna simply accept the will of the voters. So what they did just yesterday is they approved a new referendum that would seek to repeal the old amendment and instead ban most abortions with exceptions for rape and incest, which I do that for because they're not worth anything, never accept the hype. It is just a sales tactic. It's designed to make you accept this. And then if someone in Missouri is unfortunate enough to experience rape or incest and gets pregnant, oh, I hope you get a judge that gives a damn. I hope you don't get a religious zealot or a hardcore right winger who wants to run for Senate someday. Never trust the fate, the freedom of someone you care about, let alone yourself, to exceptions for rape and incest. But anyway, they used a series of what are called rare procedural moves by the AP News to cut off discussion by opposing Democrats before passing the proposed abortion rights revision by a 21-11 vote. The measure passed the Republican-led House last month. So I guess they're going ahead with this, and they don't want debate. They're not interested. There were protests, by the way, of people being like, hey, we already did this. We just did this 6 months ago. We were super clear. What part of we want control over our bodies and our destiny do you not understand? But again, Republicans don't care. Here's their argument. They say, they contend that they're simply giving voters a second chance on abortion and are confident they will change their minds because of the new rape and incest exceptions. So what do you mean a second chance on abortion? The second chance was when they needed to have an amendment. They already had access to those rights for decades. That was the first chance. When the Supreme Court took up Roe v. Wade was the first chance. I'm simplifying things, but and does anybody think that if this fails, oh shucks, they got us this time? No, they're just gonna do it again and again and again because they don't care what the voters actually say. And at least they're coming up with new arguments to try to be more persuasive. Republican State Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman said, abortion is the greatest tragedy in the world right now. If someone's fine with taking the life of an innocent, then probably you can justify whatever you want. And being chastised like that by a radical, that actually has made me change my mind. Yeah, apparently I'm evil, and so I no longer think women should control what happens to their body. You're good at this, Mary Elizabeth Coleman. That's why your side has been so persuasive, this last half century. Abortion is the greatest tragedy in the world right now. Would anyone like to chime in with others that might rival it around the world? She couldn't even say it's the greatest tragedy in Missouri. She had to go global with this thing. But anyway, that sort of unpersuasive rhetoric is why the American people still, after decades and decades and decades of these issues, want people to be able to control what happens to their bodies. And that was the main thing I wanted to talk about in this segment. And hopefully Missouri will do the right thing and kill this. Again, the right just thinks like if we add enough little window dressing, maybe people will be okay with their rights being stripped away. But that's not the only thing they did on Wednesday. They also repealed a sick leave law. So they had a law that would allow people to take paid sick leave, and they're like, actually, no, it's bad for business. Screw people. Again, they did this, and many people are gonna vote for those same Republican representatives in the future. People who I'm gonna guess would like to be able to take sick leave without being fired to be paid, and they killed it. And so if the bill signed by the governor, the paid sick leave benefits approved by voters that went into effect on just May 1st, they barely have had a taste of it, will be stripped away on August 28th. The bill also, by the way, removes the requirement that the minimum wage be indexed to inflation, which has been in place since 2007. So now they're even going back further. So then like, okay, so you were super clear you want reproductive rights, screw that, you don't get it. Paid sick leave, businesses complained, even though many businesses were on board when it happened. I guess the donors to these Republican state legislators weren't. So kill that. And also minimum wage, People are living too high on the hog with minimum wage. Let's unlink it from inflation so that gradually it becomes even harder over time to survive. And so, Republican voters, this is what they do, okay? They get in there to pay off their donors. They get in there to make the lives of those with the most even cushier. And for those of you who are actually working an actual job, using your hands, struggling to survive, struggling to keep your family's head above water, screw you, man. Screw your insurance, screw your paid leave, screw the minimum wage, screw all of it. Again, they make it so obvious how much disdain they have for you. When are people gonna wake up and throw them out of power?